cell phones or turn them to vibrate. Next item is discussion and approval of claims.
What about the minutes?
Minutes.
Oh,
and
move on the
then
minutes.
claims.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, discussion and approval of claims. Yes, sir.
James and Bruggen Taxpayers Research Council, 516 Nebraska Street. There was one claim in there I had a question about. It was in the HR department. It was for about $30,000, but there didn't seem to be any backup paperwork on it. Is there, it looked like it was for municipality, League of Municipalities or something, was the two words that were accompanying it on the front sheet there, but there wasn't anything inside the actual folder.
I
Give me
wonder
just
if
a
that's
second.
the, because that's everybody's,
Okay.
Well, do,
it could have been the people's fees for belonging to.
would it be to pay a, you guys would know what this is. The Iowa municipalities, this claim for 36.
Oh, that's the workman's comp. Okay. Okay. And the only other question I had regarding that, it said in the line items that it's
Work
exceeding the
comp.
budget in several areas.
In that line item.
Well, in a lot of the, can we just use that for?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. Okay, it says that it's the transaction, the amount exceeds the category budget for those five.
We don't need it in there
Okay.
because it's another place.
It's just premium. Oh, you move it over to another line item. Okay. Okay, just wanted to double check, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank-
James, as long as you're here on that.
Yeah.
I was going to bring it up during the concerns at the end, but for the claims process, there was, you talked about, I read a quote in the paper that you're concerned about the transparency, so. And I was going to ask the supervisors about that too, is that I want to meet with the county attorney and then also with somebody from the board to kind of go over that process. But what concerns do you specifically have? You talked about a lack of transparency.
Well, when there's a question about a claim like I have today, it's happening during this open session right now, during the actual regular meeting. Before, if there were questions about claims, it was happening in that hour previously. And sometimes that was recorded for public, sometimes it wasn't, sometimes it's discussed here, sometimes it's discussed back there. But actually having it during the agenda meeting itself is the part that I really wanted to see happen, which is happening now, which is what I'd like to see.
That's good. What, Dave asked this question earlier too, what do you receive in your homework?
I don't receive the claims, I just receive the agenda packet that includes, like today where you've got that contract on the agenda with the various items. We receive that, but we don't actually receive anything that in regards to claims.
Is there
You
a,
don't even get the edits that.
No, we do not.
Okay. That's one of the things we talked about is that we also, I talked with Mr. Tripp earlier about the claims is that maybe we should do a report that goes out with that homework that also says that, you know, when we question a claim, whether there's a lack of documentation so that the public can come in and look at it just like the supervisors do here.
Yes, okay. Because I know you have like the front page printout that summarizes like a couple
Right.
words, and that would be a great thing to see with the agenda packet. So people, if they have a particular question on one thing, we can find someone to answer those questions.
That shouldn't be a problem.
Well, in your office, how long do they stay in the booklet form?
Pardon?
In your office, when you take them back, before you write the checks, the public can see those things.
We're writing checks right now. They'll be signed shortly, so it's not very
But it
long.
wouldn't do him any good to see after the meeting.
No.
Josh, is there a way that we can send these claims out? Is there a problem with that?
So you get them on your
Well, like
iPad now.
we do, but he wants them.
But they're on the internet Friday mornings.
They are on the internet Friday mornings. See, that's something that I didn't know
Yeah,
about.
the same thing that the board gets.
Yes.
It's on the internet Friday morning.
Is there a way you could just send that out with the agenda packet when you send
I
it out?
can send it to you, I just never have.
Yeah, so this would be a great solution, easy, simple fix,
Yeah.
so, perfect.
Or you could punch it in and there it is.
I can do that too.
But we like to accommodate you, sir.
Oh, I appreciate that. And it's just nice to know when they're ready, because sometimes something might happen that slows it down and it won't come out till Friday afternoon or whatever. So it's better to know when it's ready. So,
But we should also include, on the internet, is that those claims are available at the same time out there for the board of supervisors between that hour, 9 to 10. Again, if a supervisor wants to look at it, that's what the plan is. Those claims were in here this morning at 9
Yes.
o'clock. So that they can, if there was one particular that they wanted to look at, they could do that. But what Dave and I talked about was that they just get an edit. They don't get anything that says that where we look at it and said, we're
There's
missing
a problem, yeah.
so if they want to, the board can look at it, the public can do that too. And we'll send a report along with that.
perfect. That would be, thank you very much.
All right.
Move on to claims.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that was for the amount of $606,827.67.
Heather? I need to stamp a copy of that. Next item is the memorandum of personnel transactions. Is there a motion?
Move it.
Move it. Second.
Discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I can't get up there, but I'm sure you can hear me.
No, come on up to the mic.
Okay.
That way it's recorded, Jim.
Okay. Jim Marshall, Northwest Iowa Labor Council. Question. About every week, and I've been coming here for over 3 months, and I see on an action item, it says Human Resources and approval of memorandum of personnel transactions. Why are not these issues brought out in public that you're going to be voting on so that we as the general public know what you're voting on at the meeting here?
Well, Mr. Van Bruggen, do you get that?
Yes. They provide an agenda packet instead of just this 2 pages. And in that packet, it actually lists out what the transactions are.
And what they were just.
So where do we get these?
What Heather just said is that everything that the board gets in their packet is on the website.
County website.
That's where the public would get that. We have to post all that, we post an agenda.
Okay.
And so also on the website is the Board of Supervisors homework, so you can look at that too.
Okay.
And I think they even have if you want to request, I think they will add you to it.
But I just had a question because I see these issues come up about every week, and I have no idea what you're voting on. It just says approve of memorandum of personnel transactions. I have no idea what these are, and if you're spending large sums of money, I'd like to know.
Right.
And so I could come up here and comment on them.
If
I
you
want
give
to.
her your email address, ask her to send that to you, you'll get it all.
All right.
Jim, just so you know, it's basically when people are do their raises, and then when people are like this says here, temporary summer labor for like secondary roads, it tells you that it's the end of their separation because they don't need them no longer. So basically, what is in here is just for employees or part-time employees. There's not big. I mean, it's per the contracts usually.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But it's all there. I mean, you can access it on.
No, it's good that you're asking questions.
Yeah.
Lots of people
Yes.
don't understand them.
Well, I just have a concern that we're voting on stuff that the general public has know nothing about and have no idea that there was access to it, so that I would know beforehand, so that if I wanted to comment on something, I could do it at the meeting.
Honestly, we wish everybody was as concerned as you are.
Well, I don't know if that'd be the case, but maybe a lot of people don't think I should.
And if I may, he actually brings up a very good point. And since you guys actually share IT with the city does have a spot on their website where you can enter your email and sign up, which I know they get several hundred people receive that agenda packet every week. So that'd be a good suggestion for you guys to have, is just have a spot on the website where they can fill it in, and then since IT's already doing it for the city, they could easily do it for you guys, and it'd help people when they have
Good idea.
questions and want to see what the agenda packet is. So.
Good idea.
Thank you, sir. JD, you got anything else?
Nope.
Thank you, sir.
we vote on that, Pat?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometime
Next item, set a public hearing for the sale of parcel 184800.
Move to set that for August 20th at 10:15.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We now have a presentation and resolution thanking Officer Durson.
I would move that we hold off for a little while. I don't see him any. Can we push it back till he arrives?
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay.
Patrick. You're up.
What you have before you is a contract that we have, are requesting that you sign on our behalf with COT Systems. And what this does is essentially is put an index online for our records that folks have to come into the office now in order to look at. We've been looking at this for years. We're trying to move to get as many documents as we can online so people can look at them online without having to make a trip to the courthouse in order to do this. And the funding for the contract to actually do the work, the initial upfront cost, which is about $97,000, is what they're going to do is come in and look at about 677,000 documents over a period of time from 1970 to 1994 or something like that. All those documents that are not online now. Since in 94 they started to put them, and those are available to the public. They're not. Pardon? But not, we do the ones we're currently the ones that we do now appear online. So. This is the cost of doing that from 1970 to 94 or 92, somewhere along that. Anyway, there was a period of time when we didn't do that. There are other documents beyond that that we will work on at a later date. But this allows us to spend this money from records management, which the recorder has control of. And we've just been stockpiling it for a period of time until we could do something like this. And we've looked at several different companies along the line, but COT is one that they started working with recorders' offices in the late 1800s. They've been around, so they understand indexing. And a very important part of before we accepted it was the county of Dubuque is now doing this, and they're doing it successfully. They've got a lot of other counties that they work with in Iowa, but as far as this particular project, this is one that they've done, and they've done it successfully. We looked at a lot of different companies, got kind of informal proposals of what it would take to do, but this is the one where we saw that they were successful. We liked the product, and so we got a formal proposal from them, and now the contract is before you.
So basically, they would scan all of this stuff,
Yes.
index it?
Yeah, and most, if you look through that, was that in the packet too?
Oh, yeah.
If you look through that, it's has all those are all handwritten entries that were made in these index books. And so what they've done is developed a technology where they can actually take that and make sense of it, a form of search tool that you can actually find things. And you're actually looking at the image of that actual page in index when you pull it up.
Wow, so if I wanted to look at a lot in Riverside,
Right.
you just have to have some identifiers to get there.
Right. And that's what COT Systems does, because lo and behold, in Iowa counties, everybody does things a little differently, but they look at the way that you have your system built, and they just replicate it online so that it's the same way that you do it.
So then you can get rid of all of that stuff, or you store it?
It just stays where it's at. But it just allows those folks, instead of having to come in, to look at. And plus, I mean, it's a huge safety factor, backup, is that this is now all online. That was a big thing that they talked about in Dubuque, is what happened in Cedar Rapids when they had the flood and they had a huge disaster. The recovery was unbelievable. This, you have those documents actually stored someplace else. So that's a big plus part of this.
So this contract is $72,000?
No, it's, that was just for one portion of it, and then there's the redaction part of it too. That takes sensitive social security numbers and what else is included in that. Okay,
So how much is the total contract?
97,000.
97,000? Is that an annual contract or is that a one-time
No,
fee?
there's an annual fee of $250 a month or $3,000 a year. But that's the one-time cost up front, is to do all this work, to image it and scan it and put it online.
How many counties are doing this?
Well, Dubuque is the only one that's doing this in Iowa right now. They've got several other states where they've got these in there, but Dubuque was the first one to do it, and they've done it successfully. COD is in, they do a lot of work, other work for the recorder's offices in Iowa, but we use Solutions, where a lot of those folks use COD. But this is just kind of a standalone project that we got from COD Systems.
So is this another project that will make realtors happy?
Yes. Lots of folks will be happy that they
Pat, is this going to be taken care of out of your current budget for this fiscal year?
It's going to be taken out of the records management.
Record management, okay.
Move it.
Second?
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Nara.
Morning.
Morning.
First item we have for today is the approval of contract for our gravel stockpile quote. This year we received, initially I had requested quotes for 104,000 tons. With the prices we got, we were able to stay within budget and still add 3,500 tons from additional stockpile at the Miller Township Bridge. Gets us up to within 500 tons of last year's quantity for within $3,000 of the same money. So
Are we still sampling quality?
we sample daily. We don't always run everyone. They don't know which samples we will be running. So we do, if we spot a problem, we immediately run whatever samples we have. But it does keep them honest. It keeps them watching their scales. This year, nothing will be coming out of the railroad pit. We're supplying the stockpiles at Mobile and Lawton out of our pit at near Little Sioux Park. It's known as the Peters or Cochran pit. This is property that the board and county engineer agreed with the conservation department to develop as a fishery. So they would like to see us get the available material out of that pit just as quickly as we can, so that we cease disturbing it every year and they can develop it as a more higher quality fishery. So this year we'll be taking almost 67,000 tons out of there. You know, first year we just did 15 till we saw what kind of product we got. Last year we went up to about I think it was 30,000, and this year we've doubled that.
Is it a good product?
We've been getting very good gravel out of it.
Good.
We've ended up with more sand than we'd like to have, but we're also no longer letting a sand contract tied with this, because we're getting enough clean wash sand byproduct in the Peters pit. We also have the ability to store it on our own property, that we really don't need to go out for a separate bid for our snow removal traction sand that we use.
So it's saving a little money maybe.
So when you see those piles there, they're not all gravel. We still have a gravel stockpile there, but we have one rather large sand pile. 3 of our sheds are empty right now that we store sand in, and we're getting ready to treat those to prevent chlorides from damaging the concrete. And prior to starting production at Peters Pit this year, we'll be loading those bins so that we eliminate some of the stockpile that's sitting on site. Annually, we meet with Rick Schneider down there. We try to plan the limits of what we're going to be excavating, and as we get 2 or 3 more years down the road, we'll have to take a look and see exactly how much more of that area we want to develop and where we want to stop from the fishery perspective. This year, we're working with Hallett to change our outlet for the drawdown water. There's wetlands that pretty much surround the Stubbs shooting range there. We're going to pump the water into those wetlands to see if we can have less effect on the lake at Little Sioux and the neighbor's small pond across the road. We think if we can keep those loaded, perhaps we won't see any drawdown affecting any neighboring properties. So we're going to try something different this year and trying to coordinate these issues ahead of time.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. It really will.
It'll be an education for us.
Yeah.
See if that water comes back
Back
up
up,
on the
yeah.
other side.
I mean, the water did come up over the winter in the ponds, but we will be drawing that down significantly so that we
Weren't we pumping into that neighbors?
He rejected that option.
Oh, yeah.
What was happening is conservation was providing him tankers full of water during that period last year. So we were able to, with Rick Schneider's help, at least take care of the immediate concern for the property owner. It's hoped that this year maybe we'll cut that off by changing the operation down there. Not just pumping the water to the nearby creek, but again, charging those wetlands.
Move on the gravel stockpile.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The second contract is for gravel stockpiled at Little Sioux Park Pit. This is utilized by both Districts 3 and 4. This will be the 40,000 tons we keep on the ground at that location. Again, nothing this year will be coming out of the railroad pit. As soon as Hallett's has a backhoe available, they're going to be digging some test pits there to see if we can locate a good gravel seam again, because the direction we've been moving, Railroad and Edwards are co-owned by Hallett and Woodbury County. The line kind of cuts right through the center of the pit. And we've pretty well exhausted everything as they've moved south and east. So we're going to see if we can't hit a good seam again, because this is increasing our stockpile costs a bit, because we're hauling farther to get to the Concord Township pile and the Mobile pile out of Little Sioux Park. We're kind of cross advantage here. You know, we are developing the fishery quicker, but again, we are paying a little bit more for our stockpiles.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bid on the sport utility.
I recommend that we award to the low bid, which is Billion Motors, for the 2014 Nissan Pathfinder. $26,900 less $4,000 trade for the current unit number 100. Net purchase price to the county, $22,900.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion?
If I could, this used to be Hope Motors, the Nissan dealers right here in Sioux City, so warranty service will not be an issue for it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
We back up to 5. Is Officer Dirksen here?
He's outside. He's outside. He's sitting outside.
Tell Rich to come in. Come on up here, Rich. Right up here.
David, if you do the honors.
Yes, I would be honored. Woodbury County, Iowa Resolution Number 11,079, a resolution thanking and commending Richard Dirksen for his service to Woodbury County. Whereas Richard Dirksen has capably served Woodbury County as an employee of the Woodbury County Sheriff's Department for 23 years, from February 23rd, 1990 to July 31st, 2013. And whereas the service given by Richard Dirksen as a Woodbury County employee has been characterized by his dedication to the best interests of the citizens of Woodbury County, and now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Woodbury County that the undersigned members of this board thanks and commends Richard Dirksen for his years of service to Woodbury County, and be it further resolved that it wish to all those signing below that the future hold only the best to this very deserving person, Richard Dirksen. So be it resolved this 16th day of July 2013. Take a picture. Come up there with your chair. Go around that way.
You can all come up.
Yep. You don't want a picture. Yeah.
Step right on up here. You'll get pictures of it.
Sheriff.
Morning.
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 I'd like to go over a couple things from our discussion from last week. We continue to have our population increase in the jail. Probably average population early in the morning is around 200. That's our lowest point. So we've been averaging about 215. Our concern is that we're allotted $32,806 in overtime. And out of that overtime comes the holiday. Since we enacted the additional staffing to help for safety and security reasons, we've spent so far in this budget year $9,463. As you can see, we're eating that up at quite a rate. But I think the concern that we have, and that you can see, is that the numbers are up and the staffing is a concern. This morning, we had sent you an email, put it in your packet for any questions, and this morning I got some of your answers. I probably didn't have enough time to actually look at it. Mr. Butler apologized that he got it to me so late, but let me just kind of go over these and talk about some concerns. Mr. Butler, I don't know if this was from a consensus from the board, but these are some of his questions. The cost of 5 additional correctional officers are major concerns at a starting base pay of $16.86 an hour. And he goes on and talks about $288,000 for that price for those correctional officers with benefits and everything else. I would agree that that is a substantial increase, but I think when I sat here in January and saw the money that we were sending out in litigation, that it's about a quarter of what we spent. And I think we'd be money ahead by getting back these deauthorized correctional officers to help in the safety and security of the jail. He also talks in number 3 about the adding staff is a major problem with staffing out of the general basic fund. They're capped, I understand those things, but I'm coming to you as a board voicing and sharing a concern that we have regarding our dilemma in the jail. I'm looking collectively for a way that we can solve this problem, not a way that we can find resistance, but a way that we can work together to make sure we get the right numbers.
Okay, now this was a letter from the finance manager to the board.
Yes.
So that's what you've got a copy of. Dave.
Right.
It
Okay.
was handed to us 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
As to the overtime discussion, he says in the sheriff's letter, overtime is a line item in various sheriff's budgets. Overtime can go over the budgeted line item within each department division as long as there are line items within that particular department division budget coverage. To accomplish this will take either the board action to move appropriations from budget to budget, sheriff making within the department or division. I guess that what we'd have to do is if we don't go to full-time employees, we would have to really look at increasing when it comes time for our first budget amendment. Because, one of the areas when we talk about vicarious liability is when you see a deficiency and a concern and then you fail to act on that. And we have identified those things, and so we could put ourselves in, I think, some deeper problems if we fail to act. And what I'm here is not to, continually ask for things, but what I'm here is about safety and security in the jail and how we can best correct the deficiencies that we've had that have been ongoing. I think we're going in the right direction with the cameras, but also with that, we've identified five defunded correctional officers over the past years, and we'd like to see those numbers get back to a healthy staffing so that we can do those things. I think some of these questions, number 6 is, I agree that it probably shouldn't be discussed because there's some ongoing litigation, but I think his answer is wrong. I think that there's areas that, and Mr. O'Brien even brought it out in an open meeting, that maybe we didn't have enough staffing. So that was an open meeting that Mr. O'Brien had in the court, in the LEC. Our concern is, as I'm sure yours is number 1, the finances. The way it's going, we're going to chew up this overtime in no time. But as sheriff, I think it's my obligation to make sure that the inmates are safe and that the correctional officers are safe also. And so how can we get this problem corrected? I don't have, in what Mr. Butler said was maybe find $280,000. If I had $280,000 spare change in my budget, Mr. Van Bergen would be all over all of us together. I just don't have that. But what we have to do is try to figure out a way that we can manage this. And to be honest with you, maybe if it isn't 5 full-time, maybe those numbers will come down. But what I'm saying is we need to look on this overtime issue. It's probably cheaper, but I caution you in this area. We're asking a lot of these correctional officers to work a lot of extra hours. And that becomes a concern for me also. Where these guys, I look on here and some of them are working 3 and 4 extra shifts, and that's 16 hours in a day. It gets a little long when you're working 5. I've proposed some different alternatives that we could talk with the union about, but first I would always ask your blessing, because it would require dollars. And anytime it requires additional dollars, I know where to go. And that is, if we went to this 12-hour staffing, we would have 3 days on, 4 days off, 4 days on, 3 days off. So there would be some time away from work that would help them recoup. But what it would do was it would cost extra dollars. Instead of 5 correctional officers at $288,000, you could go to the 12-hour shift if the union was in agreement with it. I think we're on good ground. I would always ask them, but I think we're on solid ground that we would be allowed to do that. But that would be about $100,000 increase. So you'd be saving a tremendous amount of money. My biggest concern is I think 12 hours is a long day, but I think that when they get 3 days off and then they get 4 days off, according to the sheriff in Pot County, when they implemented, they had a little bit of resistance. He said if I tried to take it away now, they'd shoot me, because they really have got to the point they like those hours. But I'm trying to come up with ways to be creative to make sure that we don't get in some of the same past problems, but also to make you aware of where we're going and what we need to do, because I'm not sure this problem is going to go away.
Well, and we're not either, and
Right.
I sympathize with you. You didn't have a clue that numbers were gonna go up like this.
Yeah, it's cyclical. I really believe that.
But in the past, I know what prior sheriffs have done, and that is eliminate the federal prisoners or cut them way back, and that brings your numbers back down to within a reasonable.
We can do that. The only concern, Larry, is by doing that, we do lose a considerable amount of money.
Right, and we realize that.
And that's something we can do. I don't know that if we do it, if we'll ever get them back. That would be my concern, but that is definitely an option.
See, the other problem we've got is we've got a 350 cap that we cannot break.
Right.
So the money would have to come from riverboat or the 1 cent sales tax, and that's a one-time fix. That's not a fix.
Right.
So it's you run the place over there, and we're not trying to.
No, but I
And
get
that's-
that, but you do control the dollars. I mean, we all know that, and that's why I come to you. If
Right.
it was up to me, I'd be, but I don't, like I said, I don't have the ability to let it go way over. I mean, I believe I can let the overtime continue, but I'm cautioning you that we're gonna be running out. Now, there's another area that we could look at, and that is by hiring 6 or some new correctional officers from people that are leaving, there's probably a cost savings there. So if you allow some of that money to be moved, I don't know where Dennis is in on that, but if you use some of those dollars to be moved to cover for that would help. And if Dennis.
That's still in your budget anyway, Dave.
Right, but I think it's been past practice that we really haven't done, moved it from that personnel side to cover for that overtime. But it can be done. Okay,
What are you talking about? Hire 6
no.
correction officers?
No, he's talking about the ones that they're losing.
Oh,
The ones
through
coming in are
attrition?
coming
The
in
pay.
The
less-
ones that-
less
through
They were
attrition.
up here higher pay,
Pay.
now you got a lower pay.
Uh-huh.
So some of that could offset and help pay for some of the
Okay,
overtime.
no, we've never done that.
You haven't done it. And, but that's, we're gonna have to do something, and we're gonna have to figure something out.
It's easy because we have a new sheriff to say, well, gosh, the numbers went up in the jail. Must be the sheriff's fault. So I've been tracking that like crazy and had a conversation with Lisa McNeil and Judge Nelson and some other folks this morning. But you really have no control over that other than your deputies who aren't arresting that many people. The city's had some changes, and the correctional RCF programs have had some big changes, which has caused people to be put in jail.
Right.
So it's nothing we can do to prevent it.
No.
It'd be fun if you had control of that, we could take care of it.
If I had the magic potion to make that, I'd probably go on a tour, write a book or something, but I don't have that now. One of the other questions was on the reserves. Could the reserves do it? Well, the reserves can't act in that capacity because there's not a deputy up there to supervise them. Reserves can only be under the direction of a deputy, so they're not allowed to work up there in that facility because we don't have anybody as a deputy working in. They're all civilian correctional officers. Todd, did you have things you wanted to add?
Not really, I think he's covered it. We're in a pretty bad situation here. As you can see, just since July 22nd, we're gonna decimate our overtime budget for this year already. Trying to keep 8 people up there to keep it safe. Sheriff's got some concerns about going to 2 12-hour shifts, but as you can see, because of the long day, the 12-hour day, but as you can see, we've got correctional officers now working 16 hours a day.
Yeah, I think 12 hours is an awful long day to put in up there.
And you're gonna continue to have correctional officers work 16-hour days and decimate your overtime budget.
And that's why if you get rid of the federal prisoners or cut them way back, if we're up to 30 now,
26.
26.
and normally that runs about 13, that would take almost all of the pressure off, because then you'd be back down in the 170s, which is a very manageable figure.
We can work some of those things out, and I'm not opposed to doing that. If that, like I said, I'm not sure we'll get those numbers, those people back, and there'll be some revenue loss, but in the long run, if that's the way it is, and I don't think we have a contract with him that I'm aware of, but
Now, at one time we did for 9 or 10, I
Right.
think.
Yeah, we used to have a contract with the feds.
Mr. Butler would like to speak if we get a chance here.
Oh,
There's,
Yes.
just sitting there listening to all this, there's a couple other options. One would be, you gotta be careful cutting these federal prisoners back, because we did budget about 375 to 1,000 worth of revenue coming in. If we eliminate these, we're back to the same scenario, saying, where are we gonna make this 400,000 up? We can't tax for it. So now you gotta start weighing this back and forth, where do we go? Another option would be possibly, now, you can't do it this budget year, but next budget year, maybe move another uniform patrol deputy from general basic over to rural basic. Yes, that's an increase for the rural people, but it'd free up about $90,000 into general basic for maybe an additional person or overtime or whatever. There's a couple other options here too we could address. But we gotta be careful cutting back federal prisoners, because that's gonna be a direct tax, just like interest. When we lost the interest, we had to make up $700,000 to $1 million.
right, but we're looking at right now is maybe a blip in time, or maybe this is gonna be the way it is. But the only way we've got to address it right now is to cut down on the people that are in the jail. And the only way you're gonna do that is to cut federal prisoners out.
Well, if you cut the federal prisoners, I'm gonna weigh in on this. I'm looking at the jail population week from the 20th to the 26th. You just take half that off, you're still over 200. That
No.
doesn't get you down. Really? Look at the LEC numbers.
And the other impression I have is that we may still continue to increase. So you can eliminate them, and we'll still have the problem. So then who do you eliminate? Start shipping them out? To cut the federal prisoners, as opposed to spending money on, say, the 12-hour shifts, to me, cancels each other out. Plus, we have the possibility that the feds may not want to play with us anymore. If they have another provider, why would they change?
that'd be my concern, Mark, is that once we take them out, I just don't know if we get them back.
Dennis, what's it gonna cost us? You give us $100,000 figure, Dave, on the 12-hour shift thing. Is that a true number? I mean, what's
Which number are you talking about?
$100,000 additional
12-hour shift.
for 12 hours?
Going to
12-hour
shift,
shift.
it's going to increase the number of man-hours
Yeah.
per officer annually, which is going to run your overtime, because it comes out of overtime at
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
we're out there.
about 100,000.
Now, like Dave did say too, we got people that are being replaced, these six, there is a gap there. We'd have to look at the gap, see how long the gap is, but there's somewhere, we can make up money there for overtime. Thing is, when you're working 16 hours a day, you do have burnout.
Right.
Oh, without a doubt,
Potential problem, huh?
without a doubt.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a long day. 12 hours is a long.
12 hours is long.
Kind of a huge problem, it's a hard problem, because it does get back to money, where do we get the money to fund them? But on the other side of it, we're gonna be losing jailers pretty soon. When you're working 16 hours a day, life's short.
Well, and I think too, if we went with the 12-hour day, knowing that it's 3 days and then they're off 4, they do celebrate that thought of, hey, I get 4 days, so it is kind of nice. And our coverage would go from 6 to a minimum of 13 per shift. So 2 shifts at 13 and a third ready to come in. I believe that's how it is, Todd.
Actually 11 in the main, 2 out Prairie Hill. You're pulling from.
So those
So
numbers.
you're talking 3 shifts.
Well, there's 2 12-hour shifts, but
That's Monday through Friday.
that third group comes in.
Yeah.
And there's like their ABC shift type deal.
Well, I'm concerned about how do we fund this at this particular time. If we were able to do it, I mean, the only source that I think that we have, because we're talking about something that's going to go, that you're predicting over a long-term period, that we'd have to take this money out of our reserves. Because taking it out of any other account on a long-term problem is not good planning. I mean, it really isn't. So whatever reserves that we have, that's where this money is going to have to come from if we do it in this fiscal year. And then what do we do for this next coming budget year? I mean, if it keeps going up, do we budget more dollars for additional people or what?
Well, I think that that's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah, and see, I don't know what kind of effect you're talking about. A little bit over $280,000, $300,000 out of our reserves now that we didn't plan for in our last budget planning process.
And when we're talking 288,000, we're talking a full year. By the time if the board ever authorized 5 more people, it'd probably take another month or month and a half to get them up there. So we're going to talk probably 3/4 of that. So we're probably talking about 190,000, 200,000 for the rest of this year. Now, there is one catch there for next year. We have what we call growth factor, tax base. Maybe our tax base will go up that can support this. We don't know. We won't know until about January 1st on that. So there's potential there. Down the road, there's potential of a huge tax base. But for the current, we have to depend on the tax base growing now for next year. And the state's shifting this around a little bit where that may be minimal because they're changing how apartments are taxed, they're changing the commercial rollback, they're doing various things that we don't know the direct effect yet, or exempting telephone.
Lisa, have you got anything you want to offer here?
No, I just wanted to listen in because I know there's a ripple impact frequently when people are short in jail in terms of getting prisoners to court and out of court and our court security concerns. And so sometimes the squeeze has some unintended consequences that we are always concerned to make sure, try to make sure everybody's aware.
And I would like to add to what she's saying, that again, that is a ripple effect, because the more inmates we hold in our jail, the more inmates or prisoners we have to shuffle around. We've got 7 transport officers, and they are already at their limit too. You start adding more prisoners, more court time, and then I've got transportation issues.
And remodeling.
Yeah, and we're taking, with this change of venue, we're even having one of our command officers go to save on overtime, so I don't have to pay him overtime. So I mean, we're trying everything we can to not create a bigger problem. So He's wage plan, he might not be fond of the idea, but it's the way it is. It's saving us some dollars instead of having to pay out overtime, because if we sent 2 of those, we'd be paying 2 people the overtime for that trip for however long that trial lasts.
I'd like to know what it would do to our reserves if, because that's the only source that I think that we got funds to take money from.
I agree.
That's,
For the current year.
that's a one-time shot, and we've got this problem, if it continues.
But then it becomes a budget issue.
Right.
Right.
That's, 3 months down the road.
You know, I'm willing to try anything. I mean, on cars, I'm still convinced I can get more mileage out of cars than what we have been in the last several years. I think if the guys properly maintain them, we can maybe go an
Use them
extra
longer.
year. I'm willing to try everything so that we can have the numbers up in the jail. I mean, if I can save money, I just figured a way to save $7,000 by going to a thing called sporks. That's a spoon and a fork together versus always having plastic. So trust me, Todd and I and Greg are constantly trying to figure out ways to save money, and we're kind of excited about with CBM the fact that we can save this money with sporks, and if I can save money on these plastic trays that they come in, I'm going to figure another way to save more money, because I need more people than I care if they have a piece of plastic fork and spoon. It's a spork is going to save us a ton of money. So we're doing everything we can, and I know you also are trying to figure out ways, because we don't want to end up in some issues that could arise.
Yeah, we just have to be able to come up with the money. That's the problem.
Listen, I think we're all in it together, obviously.
James and Rugged Taxpayers Research Council, 560 Broad Street. I just wanted to clarify one thing. You said if you did the 12-hour shifts, it would cost $100,000. Is that some more personnel, or is that just strictly additional? What is that?
If you go on a strict 4 on, 3 off, 3 on, 4 off, it's gonna add 96 additional man hours per year per officer.
Okay, so it's...
That's where it comes from. It's gonna be just a little over 100,000. I've averaged the correctional officer salaries, and that's about where you get.
Thanks for clarification.
Would you still do that if we added 5 more people, the 12-hour shift? Would that still be under?
I would, because myself and Major Stallman have done shift relief. We've done a bunch of different work with shift relief formulas and stuff. And if we maintain 8 on all the time with 3 shifts, we need 21 additional people to keep those 8 people on. When you talk about sick
21
time,
additional people?
vacation.
21.
You have to cover holidays. You have to
Holidays,
cover
sick time,
vacation,
vacation time.
And that's why we think it's just probably the easiest way to do it is go to that 12-hour shift.
We know we're not getting 21.
You have,
I have control over that.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have no control over
You have to
that.
bring those ideas to us, because you're running the place.
Right, but it's the money, Larry. That's why
And that's what
I'm doing
saying.
that, because I don't want you to go, that's $100,000 over.
I do that anyway, so.
Well, I get that.
We know that.
Well,
We're new, but.
Not that new,
No,
right?
exactly.
Mr. Butler.
So Mark's kind of right. If the board did approve 5 more people, we'd still be doing 12,
Yes.
which costs another 100. So now we're really talking 388,000.
yeah, that's right. That's what I'm trying to get a grip on.
That's what I'm trying to grip on. How big is
Yeah, I don't, without all the numbers in front of us, but I don't know that you could do both.
Right.
But give us a plan. We have to get together with the courts, because at one time the courts gave us some relief. See what we can do there.
Right. And I mean, Lisa and Lynette from the jail, and judges are, like Mark said, they're meeting, and I think the courts, and we have a community standard, we want to make sure that the community's safe, so we're only putting certain people out that can be on electronic monitoring or at Prairie Hill. The people that are housed in our jail are what the courts recognize as people that belong inside that facility.
And I'd like to, if it's okay, meet with these gentlemen here and Greg, figure out what the differential is just for this year, could help cover using reserves, all the reserves too, of the 188. Maybe the differential would be 50,000 or 60 or 20, who knows? Something we gotta sit down and look at. But that might opt for the current year. Then when it comes to budget issue, that's a whole different issue. But once you've hired them, they're on, we gotta resolve the issue at budget time.
How much, how long does it take to train corrections?
10-week FTO program.
Is there such a thing as part-time correction officers? We went to that in juvenile detention, that's why I'm asking.
It's a little bit like using a reserve. We can't use reserves up there because there are no sworn personnel to oversee them. Going to part-time, I don't really see a benefit to that because of the amount of training it would take. And
I'm not sure the commitment, I worry about other things too.
Yeah, we're looking at
Part-time.
cost, you're looking at everything
Right.
else, that's,
Yeah, then I agree. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice. I had mentioned that once before about part-time, but it just, there's too many factors that seem to be going against that versus a full-time employee.
and retired, is there any incentive for retired correctional officers to come back and work a couple days a week or not?
Well, that would be the part-time, and I don't know, I don't know if you might ask Correctional Officer Dirksen. He probably is glad he's done after all those years. I don't think he really wants to come back, but.
Like, I know in law enforcement, they do
Right.
that, I don't know if corrections are the same.
Well, they work security like at federal building or something like that, right? Jail's a whole different,
I
it's a whole
understand
different
that.
animal.
I'm too old to work up there.
All right,
Well, we're gonna continue to work on it, and, you know, this is more of a constantly keeping you up to date to see what we can do and find out a way, and I think if we work with Dennis too on some of this, it might help us. But I think we would be going down the wrong path if we went back to the original staffing, because I just think it's not enough personnel for today's people that we are housing inside the jail. I think we've had issues and we would continue to have issues, so I'd like to at least keep that 8 minimum like we have. We're gonna gobble this up till we can figure out a way to come up with the numbers.
now, if the jail numbers go down, it's solve everything, but
Right, yeah. It would, even if it went to 170, I'd still have great concerns over 6. I don't think it's enough. I think if you polled everybody, 6 correctional officers with 2 in a secured area only allows 4, and that's not enough person to be covering, booking and covering, doing the checks and all the things that are necessary.
Well, the other thing that is kind of gnawing on me is during construction, there's some huge changes in your routine arraignments, getting prisoners from A to B.
The additional cameras should be monitored. You're looking at personnel for that.
Well, but just to get there,
Right.
you're really going to put some heavy heat on.
And we got people coming in different routes now, so it's a different way to come in, and so we got a lot of area to cover. But that's the price of progress.
Well, but the 1212 would solve some of that.
It definitely would. It allows for that extra person to maybe step down and help as they're coming up, and Dave would know some of the ins and outs there of all the difficulties.
Just to give you an update on the jail renovation, starting this morning, they started demolition in the booking area. So we now have prisoners and officers coming into the building from a different entrance because you can no longer use the back elevator up to booking and into the booking area. We've got a temporary booking area set up. There was a cost there to move cameras. There was a cost to move cameras down on the main floor so that when those prisoners come in, they are on video from the time they come into the building until they get to the booking lobby where there is a temporary camera. There's some additional cost to just the renovation as far as the temporary area that we had to put together just to get prisoners into the building.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. I asked you all about the cars and the computers.
I have a question on the cars. That's fine. How many miles are on each one of them?
I don't.
You mean Homeland Security?
Well,
Oh, those.
because here's the deal. You know, the sheriff's office is always looking for those vehicles, and a Tahoe and an Impala are both, I mean, they could be law enforcement vehicles that could help offset some of the costs, maybe. I don't know.
Actually, I think they've got plenty of, you got plenty of used vehicles, don't you?
Well, we don't, but I'll let Major Stallman, since he's been on the phone with Homeland Security.
Well, they're not gems that they're giving away.
Correct. Greg Stallman, Sheriff's Office. Under the Homeland Security grant, those vehicles have to go to somebody that has Homeland Security, gets funding through Homeland Security. The vehicles can't be sold or stuff like that. It's either the vehicles come to the Woodbury County Sheriff's Office or those vehicles are going to be sent to another Homeland Security place.
Okay, we got conflicting information. If the value was less than $5,000, is what we were told, that they could be disposed of anyway. And I don't think either one of them are.
I talked to Annette and Michelle Scaff.
That's who I talked to, Michelle.
And Annette runs the program for Iowa. It didn't, according to her, it didn't matter what they cost. If they have to be used for such stuff as surveillance or undercover work or anything related to terrorism, and if that's not what they're going to be used for, they're going to give those vehicles to another place, is what they want to do with them. And we actually will use those vehicles for that purpose.
Well, that's what this is about.
Yeah, we actually could, our jail administrator and one of the people in the detective bureau could use that for those purposes. The good news about this grant was, and I was the chief deputy back in '04 when this came about, was we are also the holder of a lot of that equipment when it's all over. So there's some ATVs that would come to us, and so we can use those. Some of surveillance equipment also. Some of those will be shared with some of the other counties that have participated also. And they may have held a FLIR system, so they will be allowed to keep that. But some of the things that I have identified that would help us, ATVs and some of those vehicles, they will come back to Woodbury County. So I think that's a positive for us.
Okay.
Questions answered.
Computers,
Yeah.
we replace every 5 years.
Doesn't have a cell phone.
Emergency Services is a Homeland Security. I don't know if it's legal or not, but if the computers went to him, he could give them to fire departments.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know on that. I know that there's a couple that we got recently that I think I'm kind of looking forward to that we could have, but some of that equipment, yeah. I think when it's all over, which I believe is the end of July next year or something like that, Michelle and I, we're going to sit down with some of the other sheriffs and figure out what went where and make it best for everybody.
Right now, the issue are the vehicles, because the people that were using those vehicles are
Right.
gone.
And that's, Michelle got a hold of me. and-
She is going to draft a letter to you explaining the conversation that we had with Annette. Until that time, The vehicles are gonna be put out at Prairie Hill, they're not gonna be used until we get further guidance from you.
Okay.
We've got the letter from ISAC. What's your gentleman's thoughts on that? Any?
You know, the meetings with the
Yeah.
with the counties. I think that'd be a good idea to meet with them at some
Yeah,
point.
I
in time.
thought we'd schedule them to come to a meeting,
us up.
correct?
Bring us up to
Right.
speed.
They're asking for department heads and elected officials, other, plus the board.
So like going up to 8th floor and having a meeting with them.
If it's big enough.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds good to me.
When would they, would they do it
Well,
next
that's-
month, or would we just set a date and have them come at a,
Yeah, I think I'll just put it off till end of September or something.
okay?
Okay, what else we got? David?
I've got nothing, thank you.
Mark?
Nothing?
George? Is there anybody in the audience wish to be heard?
Hold on, Pat.
Dave, have you listened to a video?
Yes, they sound great. The sound is good now.
I still have an issue with that screen doesn't flickers. You can't see us on that computer. I can't go to that screen. So if you contact whoever. The other question I just had, what we discussed earlier, is it all right if Heather contacts Rick to put that email sign-up list?
Yeah, that's not a problem at all. Is there anyone else wish to be heard? Mr. Palella?
There's been some very recent developments regarding construction activity in the Port Neal area, specifically the CF build. For those of you that are kind of knowledgeable about the permitting process, you know it's kind of a domino effect. The state waits for certain permitting to come from the federal government. We here locally as a county await both those entities to issue their permitting before we would issue our next process, would be issuing a grading permit. Late last week, CF got some good news from one of the recommendation entities to the Corps, which appears to look like floodway and sovereign land stuff will fall together here relatively quickly. That'll allow the state to issue their wetland permitting, which will allow us to issue a grading permit. But just yesterday, CF has decided to submit a grading permit application, which we've received, condensing the area in which they're going to start grading work to exclude sovereign land, wetlands, and floodway. And they would like that permit as soon as possible. So we could see activity start as early as late this week or early next.
Do we give them that permit?
We would give them that permit. That would be for the area in question, that's their final permit to start moving dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when that happens, we're going to see considerable impact along our right-of-way. My understanding is a lot of dirt will be excavated, stored on-site out of the floodplain, and then used to build a dike when the project's done to solve their high water issue, similar to 2011. We know we've got some PR work to do with landowners along the transportation route. A lot of that is county roadway right-of-way, and they're going to give us as much lead time as possible. But we have got the app, we're acting on it, we anticipate we'll issue that permit, grading permit. It's just phase one. There'll be a number of them, but we'll probably issue that by the end of the week.
That's great. That's good.
That is.
Any questions on the CF build?
This is finally going to start to move dirt, and
Well,
it's a positive for the
it's
county.
one of those wait, and then hurry up.
Yeah, that's
kind of deal.
that's good.
If there's no questions on the CF bill, just a brief update on the fly ash transfer
Oh, yeah.
station.
That's a good one.
Which sits just north of 260th and Port Neal Road on the west side of Port Neal. They're ahead of schedule by a number of weeks. It's been good weather. They anticipate they will be up and running and in operation this fall. That's the goal they're shooting for.
Pretty quick.
If you've been by, you're seeing the silos go up now. So, any questions there?
Mark?
I just wanted to let the board know that we've started work on 235th Street in Allison, approving that as one of their construction access corridors. Our District 5 staff is working on that. I've got a couple of quotes for gravel to be hauled there, plus we're exploring hauling additional gravel ourselves. That road will be finished similar to what we've done down in Glen Ellen, where we'll be looking at it being dust treated full length to assist with stability, bring some extra gravel in there and getting it properly crowned. We haven't sent out anything to landowners in the area yet. That is something we need to get done so that the residents kind of know what's happening, and they're not going to live in a very nice place for about the next 3 years.
Is that going to be their main entrance?
That's going to be their main construction load access and personnel route coming in during construction.
And we have, what, 4 residences there?
We have more than 4 that are going to be affected by this. I'd say it's closer to 6. Plus, we're trying to prepare 225th Street and then Allison north of 235th, so that if we have a problem briefly on 235th, we have an alternate route, because we're going to be in a,
That's a good plan.
well, we're going to be in a 7-day-a-week environment for
Yeah.
things coming into there once it gets started. And it may be necessary for us if we have inclement weather or unforeseen conditions to do some emergency repairs in that area on 235th, and we're going to be using 225th then as an alternative route. So once we get 235th and Allison done, which is the immediate construction access corridor, we'll be working on 225th and Allison to the north as well. We'll probably put dust control in front of all the residents. We want to let them know right away that this is only going to be done during this project. This is not something we're going to sustain as part of our dust treatment program out there, though. We don't want them to get the idea that the county will continue this after the CF bill is done. I don't think there'll be a traffic justification after that point.
Are you going to raise Allison?
Raise it as far as go higher. Only what we can build up with native material around there. We're talking inches, not a foot.
Inches would be better than flat.
Yeah, we will have a 5% crown, and when we're done, we'll be bringing in adequate gravel to make sure we get that built. That is one of the big problems with Allison right now. It's wide and it is
Flat.
It's very, very little ground, and the operator hasn't got a lot to work with down there. The soils underlying the gravel base too aren't the greatest.
No ditch.
They're not terribly cohesive, so you tend to get that washboard. It's a subgrade problem that reflects up into the wearing surface.
Well,
But we will be trying to
but
address that.
between you and John, when do you expect trucks to be moving on there?
Well, we're waiting for notification from CF in regard to the first day of equipment being hauled in. We anticipate when that starts for excavation equipment coming in, we'll also see the start of considerable transportation of support structures for the major construction project, which we'll permit separately. We really don't know a time frame. We don't know if CF is in a mode here. We just want to have our ducks in a row and there'll be a lull, or hey, it'll start right away. I've been told unofficially that their general contractor Performance Engineering, they're ready to go. They're chomping at the bit to get started.
Great.
One of the loose ends here, and I don't, maybe Mark knows some knowledge about the selection of where the batch plant will be going. Have we heard yet?
What I've heard is that their air quality permit does not allow them to have a batch plant on site. Now what that's doing is we're going to see a significant increase in what our originally projected loads coming into the plant have been. We'll be seeing ready-mix trucks coming in as opposed to aggregate trucks. And so there will be some additional traffic in some of those areas. To get back to one of the other things, the first thing we're going to be seeing is they will be building the extension of Allison Avenue. So right now we come down to a dead end that lies just south of that last rental house on the west side of the road. They will be building a road that takes it down to that construction staging area. So that's actually the first thing you're going to see. Getting the permits was the thing that they needed to be able to start that. And that includes the county permit as well. So that'll be the first phase of construction we see. We started on this last Thursday. Mike Lloyd and I met with them on Wednesday just to get their updated construction schedule. So we're accelerating our efforts down there to get ahead of them because much of the dirt to build the Allison extension will be coming from off-site.
And you're gonna start that when, Mark?
We've already started. We're out there working now.
On Allison?
On Allison and on 235th. We're starting out at the Port Neal interchange intersection, narrowing out, building it up, starting to blend in some fines, and then again, we'll do some gravel work, get it crowned, and try and build as solid a road as we can get out there for their construction purposes. And we will be dust treating all of 235th from Port Neal all the way down to Allison Avenue where they're at. Just for the number of trucks coming in, we're looking at 150 to 200 trucks per day. So that's 300 to 400 trips total. You look at that over the course of a 10-hour day, you've got trucks meeting every 2 or 3 minutes. So
That's a lot of weight.
If you don't dust treat the whole thing,
That's
you're
right.
going to have so much
Absolutely.
dust that people won't be able to see each other.
That's right.
And,
You gotta do it.
There'll be some expense for us with it. We might have to amend our budget, especially in that dust control area, because this has grown beyond what was anticipated.
Well, that was going to be my question to Dennis. Since we've tipped that area down there, can we charge this back so that we can reimburse our county engineer department once the TIF starts coming in? So that all should be billed back to TIF. That's where TIF really comes to be important.
We'll track our expenses then.
Yeah.
It might be a good reason to entertain including additional right-of-way within that TIF.
Yeah, I would think so.
Maybe we'll schedule a trip down there next Tuesday or the following Tuesday so that the rest of the board is brought up to speed on all that.
Yeah, I think, Mark, anything you do down there at this point in time should be Bill's captain and given to Dennis so that we can get that into the TIF.
We'll get a project code going and track our hours. It includes one piece of rental equipment. We extended the lease on that smooth.
Oh, yeah.
And again, that's really essential to getting that road grade compacted.
Because I don't want that to be your budget to supplement and not be reimbursed for what you're doing down there.
It's not eligible for RISE money.
No.
That was not part of our RISE grant proposal, so we will appreciate anything that we're willing to do
Yeah,
to assist us.
Absolutely.
To put it in perspective, I think the project provides for 300,000 cubic yards of concrete. So this is a significant impact upon part of our roadway right-of-way.
That's 30,000 loads of concrete.
30,000 loads?
About 10
That's
cubic yards
huge.
per load, so I'm assuming they'll be
Jesus, that's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
You bet it. That's wonderful.
I poured concrete, but not that much.
That runs us pretty hard too.
The only other comment I have is a related project down there tied to the CF build. Probably early September to mid-September, you'll see the commencement of asbestos abatement and demolition of the old tannery building.
Great.
And related structures.
Who's doing that now?
I think they've selected a sub, but they haven't issued the PO yet. I think it'd be a little, I don't want to
Yeah.
comment on who might get that job.
Right.
Other
But
than
that
to
is
say
coming,
that.
but that is coming down. I mean,
Yeah, there's
that's
some
gonna be-
issues regarding certification
Sure.
of the personnel that worked that particular
Oh, okay.
project, as well as the signs, the signature on some easements that have to take place before then. So, but it's all starting to fall together, and we'll wake up someday and it's just going to be gangbusters down there.
Or done.
Yep. The only other comment I want to make down there, just so you're aware of it, Dan Lee, I think who you're all familiar with, owns Port Neal Welding, which sits on 260th Street on the east side. He's going to be relocating his business to the old design home building. He bought that parcel. He has some interest in either commercially or industrially developing the balance of that parcel. And I would suggest we sit down with Dan to determine his needs. I think he's got a architect hired or a land developer hired to give him some advice on how that would be best suited. We haven't heard from that individual yet, but we anticipate we will shortly. So there's some dynamics occurring south of town that I think we should take advantage of and plan for accordingly.
Good.
Good job.
Mark, is there, I ran into my friend from the Ord and Slough again. Is there any way we could farm that out?
I can get proposals for doing the engineering work for the board's consideration. Sunquest Engineering.
That would be charged back to the drainage
Yes,
district.
that's correct. And they do have a balance where they could absorb some of those charges. But yeah, we are very, very busy with the extra bridges. And
Maybe-
sending a couple bridges out for hydraulics, so we kind of get ahead. Right now, we're a little bit behind on design, but Sunquist and a couple of other people do a lot of that type of work. And we've got all the survey done for them, so that's something we can look at.
Or maybe a letter to the people on the slough, just explaining what's going on, because they voted to do it and nothing's happening, and they're going,
Yeah, no official votes been taken because we have to have a public hearing because of the expense, but I know there are folks down there that have been concerned about seeing that roll again. And we just haven't had the horses to get it done right now.
well, they're not yelling, but let's not get there.
Well, yeah, we'd rather not have a wet spring than they would be yelling. So, you know, we are, I realize we're up against a timetable. Sunquist Engineering is the one firm that I really looked at initially on this because they do the farmers and garrison work. They do a lot of work for the Monona, Woodbury Inter-County Drainage Districts. Jack Virtue used to be with that company, or was bought out by that company, so they have a good deal of experience. I'll try and find at least one other to get quotes.
Okay.
Final comment, you're all aware that everything we've talked about here is kind of supported by the Grow Siouxland Task Force, which meets monthly. We've talked about that. Next meeting's tomorrow from 9 to 11 at the Security Institute. Supervisors Clausen and Monson are on that, and anybody's welcome to come if you want to see what it's all about and how we network out there in support of all the projects in Siouxland. Feel free to join us.
It might be a good deal just to go out and see the people that are involved.
The group's in the 30s now, and we pulled in education last, most recently anyway, and we'll expand as need be as the challenges present themselves.
Great.
Public safety has now got a subcommittee.
Subcommittee meets at 9 and the general task force meets at 10.
I'll come out at 9 tomorrow.
Okay.
And I wanted to apologize to everybody for getting up. My kid needed to be picked up, so I apologize. That's why I had to leave.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Any questions?
Anybody else wish to be heard? We're adjourned.
We'll be adjourned.